So President Trump signed an executive order last Thursday that would permit certain energy and infrastructure projects, such as pipelines, highways, and mines, to move forward without regard to environmental reviews.
You don't review the environmental...
You ask no questions. Just do it.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And don't get me wrong. When the economy needs stimulation, it can be a good thing to get projects underway, which will employ people.
Okay.
But in China and Europe and other countries around the world affected by the pandemic, they are building sustainable, renewable energy projects, not coal mines and oil pipelines. And they're putting those on a fast track. But those are wind projects and solar projects. Well, let's take it directly from the horse's mouth. This is EPA Chief Andrew Wheeler, and he said, "Today we are following through on President Trump's executive order to curb abuses of the Clean Water Act that have held our nation's energy infrastructure projects hostage, and to put in place clear guidelines that finally give these projects a path forward." Because, you know, that Clean Water Act, it's just been holding our country hostage for decades.
I didn't... So, curb abuses of... the Clean Water Act?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
isn't the Clean Water Act there to curb abuses of companies and people who want to dump things in the water that are going to kill people and fish and life?
That's what I thought. And
so,
in fact,
but that's an abuse.
Well,
that's an abuse to prevent people from killing people by pouring waste into water streams.
That's his take on it. Gina McCarthy, the president and CEO of the National Resources Defense Council, said, "Instead of trying to ease the pain of a nation in crisis, President Trump is focused on easing the pain of polluters. Abusing emergency powers to deep six necessary environmental reviews is utterly senseless. These reviews are required by law to protect people from industries that can harm our health and our communities. Getting rid of them will hit those who live closest to polluting facilities and highways the hardest, in many of the same communities already suffering the most from the national emergencies at hand. Americans are crying out for leadership to confront racist violence and stop the spread of a deadly pandemic. This administration is not only ignoring those cries, but piling on the burden. We will not let this stand." And it's luckily for the environment and our health, there are groups like the NRDC which will bring lawsuits against the Trump administration to challenge and overturn this order. And I believe the Trump administration timed this perfectly. They're using the pandemic and civil rights protesting as cover so that he can issue this rollback and gift his fossil fuel buddies, and most news outlets will barely cover this, and most people won't notice it until it's too late.
Right, because if you turn into the news right now, they're talking about the protests, and they're talking about the pandemic, and, you know, this, like, complicated, nuanced thing, although it's about as ham-fisted as you can get.
Yep.
But it's just too frou-frou. Like,
you take one industry that pollutes one river, and you're going to affect so many people's lives adversely for so long. It's mind-boggling. This law was put into effect. The Clean Water Act is there to protect our health, not there is to hold the country hostage.
Right. It's not an abuse
Right.
to... I mean, what? It's just the most awful...
Yes.
And Andrew Wheeler, he is supposed to be the head of the Environmental Protection Agency.
Yeah.
His job is to combat stuff like this and to say, no, my job is actually to protect the environment. It's in the name. Like, how do we have a system where he can be appointed by the president, and then the president can say something that's essentially exactly opposed to the Environmental Protection Agency's, like, just goals?
Yep.
And then he's like, well, he's my friend, so I'm going to do whatever he says.
Yep.
That's insane.
It is insane.
That is so mind-bogglingly insane, and I can't believe that we're just going to let this happen. Please don't let this happen. Please support groups that are going to be suing the Trump administration over this. If you think that Trump is a really great guy, maybe reconsider that thought based on this and this alone, because it's really, really disgusting.
Hey, it's really important to keep up on this kind of stuff.
So make sure you share this video with your friends and family so they can stay as informed as you are.
To do that, just click on the share button below, copy the link, and paste it into an email or social media post. See? Easy peasy. Now you know.